Well, we are riding on a tracks train.
Yes.
Specifically the sugar house trolley, but that's neither here nor there. It's a tracks train. It's a trolley system.
It's a trolley system.
A light rail system that runs around Salt Lake, which is where the National NMRA convention
this guy right here
was held. It's over now, but we want to show you that as part of the National Train Show, which is how they ended the convention with the National Train Show, and huge train show, probably the biggest train show that there is.
Right.
And as part of that, they have modular groups.
Yes.
And what was most interesting to us were the Fremo groups. An HO Fremo group and an N-scale Fremo group. A few years ago, I couldn't even spell Fremo, and now I'm a fan.
There you go.
Actually, it's not that hard to spell. But it's a whole different way of doing modular railroad.
It is. I'm totally lost with it, but I'll figure it out.
They explained it, and it's actually quite simple.
Yes.
And so I will now explain it to you. Check this out, the Fremo modules at the National Train Show in Salt Lake City. So it was a really great train show. I couldn't believe how many dealers there were.
It was hard to get around to all of them.
We missed some of it, because these pictures don't do it justice. It really went on and on and on. And it was the big national people like Soundtracks here. They weren't necessarily selling anything. They were just showing off their latest and greatest and directing you off to your favorite hobby shop or whatever to buy their wares. This was really neat. All these different scales running with different sound systems and in an automated system. And I'm getting more and more excited about this kind of thing because it eliminates that need to go around in a big circle.
Right.
Just being able to go back and forth on a single track, well, it makes designing a railroad so much simpler if you're willing to go point to point instead of doing laps like NASCAR.
Right, and then have it go around really fast on the track. I like the trains to move slow like that.
And trains really do just go back and forth on the same track. They don't go around in big circles. But just really neat to see all of the big national people all in one place like this. Well, it looks like they're doing a day out with Thomas here.
I guess. Does he belong there?
I'm not sure. But they did have a lot of modular groups, and the big deal were the Fremo groups. There were two big Fremo groups here, and they were putting together 8,000 square feet of Fremo modules.
Wow, school's in session for me.
The idea behind Fremo is freeform. Keep it really simple. The modules are either 24 inches wide for single track or 26 inches wide for double track, with the track running right up the middle. Always point to point, no big loops, and that way they can just bolt together whatever modules show up into whatever pattern they want to. This is the N-scale Fremo group over here, but you can see it just sort of meanders all around the room. They just keep tying these things end to end to end to end until they're all hooked together. And that's their railroad. That's really neat.
It is.
Way simpler than trying to put together a big loop. This is the HO scale Fremo modules. And they had some really nice passenger trains over here. One of the groups that showed up was doing SP. And they brought along this huge terminal here. It was a SP depot on the wharf, I guess, sort of like a Port Authority type of building. I think it follows an actual prototype in the Bay Area. Not really sure. But they had all these beautiful passenger trains that were tied up at this huge train station.
It's a lot of fun to ride a passenger train. I really love it.
We've ridden the California Zephyr a few times.
We have.
And that's just, I love passenger trains. I like riding them, but I also like modeling them. A lot of people just want to stick to freight trains, but I actually prefer modeling passenger trains.
It's fun.
To each their own.
Yes.
Look at the interior on this depot that they've built.
Such detail.
Wow. And you can fit these huge trains inside the structure. And it also has a section here for tying up the ferry boats. Again, I'm pretty sure it's based on an actual building. And so the ferry boats would pull in right here, and then passenger trains could be pushed right off onto the ferry boat and taken across the harbor or whatever. But how neat is that?
That is.
Just beautifully done. Another thing I like about passenger trains are that they are through trains on a big layout like this. So I know for the operators it's a lot of fun to run freight, especially local freight, because you can do switching. That's what this guy is doing here. Now he's modeled an actual freight terminal that was there in California that was a circular freight depot. Really, really unusual structure. But he's doing switching here for prototypical operations. And that's really fun to do, but I think for a big show like this, what a lot of people like to see are the through trains. And so what was really cool is while these guys were doing their operations and their switching, then they'd have to get out of the way and a passenger train would come through every few minutes. So for a spectator, there was so much going on. It made it really, really exciting, really fun.
Yes.
Operations has become a major part of the hobby. A lot of the people we know, that's just what they love to do.
They do.
Realistic
it looks
operations.
Fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to build the models.
Right.
But again, to each their own. And for a lot of people, doing realistic operations is what they really love to do. They just soon buy the models already built and then show up at somebody's railroad and do local freight operations like this. And some of the big through trains are freight trains. This was a through train that they had running all the way around the railroad, a rail link train, but it was carrying armor, all different kinds of tanks and armored vehicles. And boy, you think about the modeling that it took to put something like this together. That's really impressive.
Wow, it looks like they got some awards.
Yeah, the modules are all judged as part of the modeling contest. So, they did well.
They did.
But they should. I mean, look at this. The beautiful scenery, structures, bridges. It looks so neat to see a really beautiful, detailed train like this moving through really beautiful scenery this way. It's really what it's all about.
I found this area right in here where somebody had put water in, or a pond, and I thought it was so cool to watch the train go by and get the reflection of the train in the pond.
Makes for a beautiful shot.
It looks so real.
I love that. I love the little beaver pond, complete with the beaver swimming over.
Oh my gosh, they've been tagging these cars too, the silly kids.
Boy, everywhere you look, there's somebody tagging a train.
Exactly.
At least they're not tagging our fence.
Or the sign above Foothill.
Yeah, that was... couldn't even read it after a while. They had to go in there and replace it. Not too bad if they stick to freight trains, I guess. It makes a nice modeling feature.
It does.
Now we're back over here on the N-scale Fremo modules. This was really neat. It was just about the same size as the HO, but in this smaller scale, they could put so much more in there. Now, we were familiar with a lot of these modules because we'd seen them at the National N-scale Convention.
Right.
And it was like old home week to run into some of these people. It was just really fun.
I really like N-scale because you can fit so much into a small space and have fun with it.
Yeah, and the detail is good. It's not like you sacrifice anything.
Oh, no.
You can still get away with all sorts of fun little details, but you can pack so much into a small space. And you can do working features in the small scale, too. Oh, what did you find here? A golf cart?
Just something really teeny, but look how small it is compared to my finger.
Okay, now this was really special. These guys are from Scale Trains, and they had done that 3-unit turbine in N-scale that they had at the National N-scale Convention. And oh, that was tempting to get a hold of one of those, I'll tell you what. But they showed up here with the same thing in HO scale.
Oh, nice.
and they were getting some promotional video here to use on their website. They're going to be bringing this train out around Christmas this year.
Nice.
2019, for those of you who may be lost. But this is the train show is 2019, so it should be out this fall. But what a beautiful, beautiful 3-unit turbine, rated at 8,500 horsepower. But it could actually do much, much more than that on a cold day. Going over the Wasatch, it was often achieving 10,000 horsepower.
Wow.
Now, the guy that they have operating it here was an actual engineer on these things back in the 1960s, just before they were discontinued. And so that was part of what they wanted to do for their promotional video, was to have an actual turbine locomotive engineer from back in the day. So as soon as the SB Daylight and the armor train clear the main line here, we should get a green block and head for the high iron with the turbine. Now, something really interesting here, these turbines also had a diesel engine. Mostly just for moving them around when you didn't want to turn on the huge turbine because it used so much fuel. And in this case, with the digital controls, you can run it with either engine. And so he's actually leaving here under diesel power only, and he could only achieve a speed of around 40 miles an hour. And watch what happens when he turns on the turbine engine. It suddenly takes off.
That's almost a speed step 45 because the turbine's turned off. When I turn it on, alright, hit it.
It's really neat that with the digital controls you can actually do those kinds of things. You hear the turbine coming up to speed and away you go.
I think it's cool the way they've done this with some of the doors open so you can see the turbine inside.
Isn't that cool? You can get your nose right down in there, and it's a pretty detailed model of the turbine prime mover. They also did the exhaust port. You can see the whole exhaust down in there. I have actually stood in that exhaust port on one of those things. It's about 7 feet in diameter.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it wasn't on at the time.
Say.
I'd have had to change my name to Oscar Mayer.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or just Frankfurter.
Charbroiled.
Yeah, no kidding. But no, it was safely turned off, and I was able to climb up in there and stand in the exhaust port. I did a little asking, and the pre-release price has been announced at $1,000 with the sound system and everything. But they are offering it in pre-release apparently for under $800. It's tempting if we had a layout.
That's right.
We don't have a layout, and I also already have several turbines. But darn, this is one of the nicest ones I've ever seen. Just first-rate job on this.
I really like the N-scale version of this one too.
Yeah, we saw that at the N-scale convention, and it's widely advertised that it's all sold out now, but in asking they said, well, they may have a couple stashed away, and if we really wanted one, we probably could get a hold of one. It's certainly a lot more affordable than the HO version. But either way, it's a beautiful, beautiful model of one of my favorite locomotives.
It was sure getting a lot of attention, though.
Yeah, as word got around that this thing was out on the track, all kinds of people came over to take pictures and get a look at this thing. And of course, they had it on display there in their booth on the dealer floor. It's offered in several different numbers. And interestingly, they're offering a couple of different tenders, because the tenders have been used for other things other than just the turbine engines. And so they're also offering it as an auxiliary tender, because the steam program uses these as the auxiliary tender for both the big boy and the 844. Scale Trains is kind of one of the newer and smaller groups out there making diesel engines, but boy, what an impressive lineup these guys have.
No kidding.
And they were giving away free cups too.
Oh, gee. There you go.
Good. Okay. So that is those are the Fremo modules. Is that neat?
Isn't that neat?
And of course,
awesome.
the National Train Show.
Right.
Huge train show as part of the National NMRA convention, which is just beyond belief.
Wow.
But the turbine, the Scale Trains turbine that's going to be coming out around Christmas, we're doing this in 2019, so if you're running into it in 2024 or something like that. It's currently 2019, and for Christmas of 2019, that turbine is supposed to be out from Scale Trains, and that is one beautiful. Is that neat or what?
Yes.
So we chased that all over the railroad, but mostly what we came to see were the Fremo modules, and we did get to see those, and as it happens, we got to tour the modules with the turbine, so that's all. That's all. If you haven't been over to the channel, do pop over to the channel, because we have a lot of other things like the whole rest of the train show for crying
No kidding.
And if you're not a subscriber, do subscribe.
Yeah.
It sort of helps us out. That's why we're asking. But the bigger thing is you'll get notified. You see, whenever we upload a movie, if you click your little notification bell after you subscribe. So that's all very well. So if you haven't been over the channel and you're not a subscriber, here's your opportunity to do both. Are we ready for the blue button?
Next stop, South Salt Lake
Blue
City.
button.
Main
Well,
Street.
we're not sure how you found this movie on the internet. We hope you didn't find it boring. And we will see you here on Tuesday. Because we have some toys to play with.
Right.
We'll be fine.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.